Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Abidemi, and welcome to class. Today, we will be taking a look at the concept of game theory. Game theory. In our last class, remember that we covered the concept of market structure, and we took a look at perfect competition, monopolistic competition, monopoly, and oligopoly. Game theory is like an extension of oligopoly. You remember that we said oligopoly is a market where we have few sellers. All right. So, and also remember that in oligopoly, we said the firms are interdependent. It means that one firm's decision affects another. And so in game theory, we're going to take a look at what will certain firms or what would a firm do based on another firm's decision. Okay, what will certain firms do based on what other firms are taking or based on the other strategies other firms are taking? For example, if a firm increases its price, what will another firm do? Yeah. So game theory, like I said, is like an extension of oligopoly. So we are going to see how those firms interact with one another within the market. Now, let's dive straight in. What is a game? A game is any competition in which strategic behavior is important. All right. So I'm sure you play either basketball or football or any other game of your choice, and uh, you can tell that before you win your opponent or before you beat your opponent, you got to come up with a strategy. You just don't play loosely. You come up with a strategy, specific and detailed strategy on how to win the game. And I'm sure during that game, if your opponent, who you are, or your competitor, who you are playing with, figures out your strategy in which you are using, I'm sure you guys have to call yourselves back to change the strategies so that you can win the game. All right. So a game is any competition in which strategic behavior is important. Now, game theory was originally developed during the 1920s and grew rapidly during World War II. During World War II, in response to the need to develop formal ways of thinking about military strategy. The mathematician John von Neumann did much of the pioneering work in game theory. Game theory studies how people or firms behave in strategic situations. Game theory is particularly useful in understanding the interaction between firms in an oligopoly. So I mentioned that earlier. So we've talked about this. An oligopoly is a market with few sellers which are interdependent and can collude, meaning that they can come together to dominate the market. In game theory, the firm itself tries to identify, one second. So in game theory, the firm itself tries to identify the possible moves that the rival could make in response of each of its strategies. The firm can then plan counter strategies if the rival does react in one or more of the anticipated ways. Okay, so I mentioned that, for example, uh, whether you're playing football or whether you're playing basketball, I mean, your coach would have told you the plays to take. Okay, they will tell you in case they do this, this is what you should do. In case they take this, oh you be on this player, you be on this player, you defend this player. So you've got to anticipate what are the kind of strategies in which they are going to take. So you have to prepare your own counter strategies. All right. Game theory can be cooperative or non-cooperative. So let us take a look at cooperative. Cooperative game theory assumes that the group of players reaches an outcome that is best for the group as a whole. while non-cooperative game theory involves players being guided by self-interest. I'm sure you know, especially according to Adam Smith, when he was trying to talk about or explain the concept of economics, human beings, either as individuals or as firms or even as government, okay, are driven by self-interest, And I usually say that self-interest does not mean that you're just looking out for yourself alone. No, the self-interest, especially in the concept of economics, talks about taking a decision that benefits you and at the same time having a positive societal impact. For example, if I ask you why you're in the classroom, you're in the classroom so that, for example, maybe you want to learn economics so that you can start your own business. All right. If you start your own business, what happens? You get to employ people. Like that's a societal impact. If you employ people, what do? You pay them good salary. When you pay them good salary, they are able to take good care of their family. All right. That contributes to their standard of living. That's a societal impact. All right. So self-interest here means what best suits you so that you can at least contribute to a positive societal impact. We'll focus more on non-cooperative game theory or strategy, or the reason why we are focusing on non-cooperative because it is driven by self-interest. And like I said, humans, individuals, or households, or firms, or government of different countries are driven by self-interest, things that will benefit them. Okay? So there are two major tasks involved in using a game theory to analyze economic situations. All right. So in a game, how do we approach the concept of a game? All right. How? The first one is to simplify the game. All right. Why do we need to simplify the game? Simplify the game so that only the relevant elements or information will be retained. This is because the analysis involved in strategic settings quickly grows more complicated than in simple decision problems. It is important to simplify the setting as much as possible by retaining only a few essential elements. All right, so we simplify the game so as to avoid every form of complications, or so that we can focus on the most relevant information rather than focusing on things that are not much important. What about the second task? So the first task is to simplify the game. The second task is to solve the given game, which involves predicting what will happen. To solve a game, one takes an equilibrium. Okay, so that equilibrium is referred to as Nash equilibrium, okay, into consideration. And that Nash equilibrium is the dominant strategies or the best strategies of each player. Okay, the best strategies or the dominant strategies of each player. When we play the game, you're going to take a look at it. A Nash equilibrium developed by John Nash in 1953 is simply the best response of both players. Okay, so Nash equilibrium is the best response or the dominant strategies or the best strategies of both players. Or we can simply say Nash equilibrium means best response. It is a situation in which economic actors interacting with one another each choose their best strategy. You see, given the strategies all other actors have taken. Outcomes that are not Nash equilibria are unstable because at least one player can switch to a strategy that will increase his or her payoffs given what the other players are doing. So the importance of Nash equilibrium is that each of the players will not have an incentive to cheat. Why? Because they have taken that decision based on their own self-interest. Okay? So Nash equilibrium, it's a position where each of those players would not have an incentive, would not want to cheat because they are both arriving at an equilibrium based on their own self-interest. Now, in a game, there are few elements in a game. A game has three elements. One, players. Each decision maker in a game is called a player. These players can be individuals, firms, in bracket oligopolies, or entire nations. Usually, the number of players is fixed throughout the play of the game. Games are sometimes characterized by number of players involved, 2-player, 3-player, or n-player games. N-player games simply means more than 3 players. But in this study, we're just going to focus on 2 players. Okay? We're going to focus on 2 players. So, number one element of a game is you need players. Just like in the game of football, you have players. In the game of basketball, you have players. In the game of volleyball, you have players. Okay, in the game of cricket, you have players. All right. And each of those players make a decision to win their game or take certain actions or take certain steps to win the game, which leads us to number 2, strategies. Strategies. Each course of action open to a player during a game is called a strategy. The strategies can be also explained as a player's choice in a game. So, for example, I pick a game of basketball. You need a strategy to win the game. Okay? So each team needs a strategy to win the game. Is it that they are going to play more defense? Is it that they are going to shoot 3 points more? Is it that they are going to go into the paint to shoot 2 points? Okay. What will be their strategy? All right. So strategy is each course of action open to a player during a game. Then let's take a look at payoffs. The final return to each player at the conclusion of the game is called a payoff. So the outcome of the game, okay, are you going to win? Are you going to lose? Are you guys going to have the same point? Payoffs measure the level of utility obtained by the players. So payoffs measure the level of utility or the level of satisfaction obtained by the player. For simplicity, play is meant to be payoffs. Payoffs can be monetary or non-monetary. Okay, payoffs, monetary is profit or non-monetary is prestige, risk preferences, etc. All right. So what are 3 elements of a game? You need a player, you need strategies, and you need payoffs. Okay, players, strategies, and payoffs, which is the outcome of the game or the conclusion of the game, and the final return of each player at the conclusion of the game. So now let's dive straight into the concept of prisoner's dilemma. Prisoner's dilemma. So let's see how the game is going to work. First introduced by A. Tucker in the 1940s. Its name comes from the following situation. The prisoner's dilemma is a story about 2 criminals who have been captured by the police. Let us call them Mr. Green and Mr. Blue. The police have enough evidence to convict Mr. Green and Mr. Blue of a crime, so that each will spend a year in jail given existing sentencing rules. The police also suspect that the 2 criminals have committed a jewelry robbery together in which a victim was badly injured, but they lack hard evidence to convict them of this major crime. So the first crime, they are found guilty. They know that they were the one who did that, and they have evidence on them for that. All right. But the second crime, their jewelry robbery, they don't have clear evidence. That's why it says they lack evidence to convict them of the major crime. Then to be able to find out if they were the one who carried out such crime, then they need to ask them questions. Okay, so the police questions Mr. Green and Mr. Blue in separate rooms and offer each of them the following deal. Okay, so let's see the deal they are being offered, with the evidence we have on selling, they have on selling drugs on them, we can lock you up for 1 year. If you confess to the joint robbery and implicate your partner, however, we will give you immunity and you can go free. So the first one is confess, okay, and implicate your partner, you will go scot-free, while your partner will get 20 years. Okay, but it's your own decision that you know. You don't know what your partner is going to do. So, but for you, they told you that if you confess and implicate your partner to say, okay, maybe he was the one who did it or she was the one who did it, your partner will go for 20 years while you will go scot-free. Also, if you both confess, okay, so at different rooms, okay, they're going to question them differently. If you guys both confess, we will need your testimony and we can avoid the cost of trial. So you will each get an intermediate sentence of 8 years. Okay, so what is the scenario here? It's vice versa. Confess, implicate your partner, you will go scot-free and your partner will get 20 years. So in both ways, okay, Mr. Green, confess, implicate your partner, you will go scot-free and your partner will get 20 years. Mr. Blue, confess, implicate your partner, Mr. Blue will go scot-free and your partner, Mr. Green, will go 20 years. So it's in both ways. But if both of them confess, Mr. Green and Mr. Blue, it means that both of them will both get 8 years each. All right, so let's take a look at the table and let's solve it. Okay, we'll solve it then. I already put an explanation below this diagram right here, this box right here. So how do we solve it? Now, this is how I solve the game. So we are going to solve it. First, we are going to solve it horizontally, right like this. That's what we're going to do first. We're going to solve it horizontally. All right. So the first way to solve it is to ask the question, what will Mr. Blue, let me use this, what will Mr. Blue do? What will Mr. Blue do as a result of Mr. Green's decision? What will Mr. Blue do as a result of Mr. Green's decision? So what will Mr. Blue, what will it do as a result of Mr. Green's decision? Or what decision will Mr. Blue take as a result of Mr. Green's decision? So let's go. If Mr. Green gets 8 years, confesses and get 8 years, what will Mr. Blue do? Mr. Blue will confess and also get 8 years. Okay, remember I said first, you're going this way, horizontally. Okay. So if Mr. Green confesses, he gets 8 years. Mr. Blue also confesses and gets 8 years. Okay. Now, if Mr. Green confesses and Mr. Blue remains silent, it means Mr. Green confesses, goes scot-free. Mr. Blue remains silent and gets 20 years. If you compare this box, compare this box and this box, what will Mr. Blue do? Will Mr. Blue confess and get 8 years or remain silent and get 20 years? Of course, you know he would confess and get 8 years. So first of all, the dominant strategy for this column right here will be to confess and get 8 years. Okay, so Mr. Blue, for this first column right here, this one, will confess. Let me put C. So now let's check this right here. You want to check this side. Okay, so if, oh no, let me, Mr. Blue is the confess. That's the first column. So let's take a look at the second column. So if Mr. Green remains silent here, he gets 20 years. Mr. Blue confesses and goes scot-free. Again, if Mr. Green remains silent and gets 1 year, this is 1 year. Come in. Yeah. So if Mr. Green remains silent, he gets 1 year. Mr. Blue remains silent and gets 1 year. Compare this box and this box. So the first one we did is we compare this box and this box. Of course, we go for 8 years and confess. Also compare this box, this one here, and this box. Okay, you will see that Mr. Blue, if Mr. Blue confesses, is going to go free, and if he remains silent, is going to get 1 year. Okay, that's if Mr. Green remains silent, and so it will go for confess and go free. That means his other column is confess, so the dominant strategy equals to confess for Mr. Blue. Okay, for Mr. Blue. Let me erase this part. Now, it's time to go vertically. So now the other question is, so the first one we did was, what will Mr. Blue's decision be as a result of Mr. Green's decision? Now we have to switch it. The switch is, what will Mr. Green's decision be as a result of Mr. Blue's decision? So the first one was, what will Mr. Green's decision, what will Mr. Blue's decision be as a result of Mr. Green's decision? Now will be, what will Mr. Green's decision be as a result of Mr. Blue's decision? So now we are going this way. We are going vertically this way now. We are going to check all this box right here. Okay, so it's like we are going this way. Okay, let me clean that. All right. Now, so let's ask the question. If Mr. Blue confess, he gets 8 years. Mr. Green will confess and also get 8 years, right? Okay, let's go to the second. Okay, let me put that here. Let's go to the second row. Right here. No, so if Mr. Blue confesses, gets 8 years, Mr. Green confesses and get 8 years. So we are checking for Mr. Green. Their dominant strategies. Okay. All right. So you understand that first part. If Mr. Blue confesses, get 8 years, Mr. Green will also confess and get 8 years. So let me clean that part and move to the next row. So the other part, if Mr. Blue confesses and goes scot-free, Mr. Green remains silent, yeah, and does what? And gets 20 years. What will he choose? Will he confess or remain silent? Will he confess or remain silent? Is going to, let me clean that, is going to confess and get 8 years. Is going to confess and get 8 years. So Mr. Green will confess and get 8 years. Okay, so let's go to the role underneath. If Mr. Blue remains silent, he gets 20 years right here. Okay, Mr. Green confesses and goes free. Yeah. If Mr. Blue remains silent and gets 1 year, and Mr. Green remains silent and gets 1 year, what will he choose? Compare this one, this side and this side. It's going to choose, Mr. Green is going to confess and go scot-free rather than remaining silent and getting 1 year. So it also means that Mr. Green's dominant strategy is to confess and confess. Okay. What that means is that the dominant strategy of Mr. Green is also to confess, right? See right here. So what is the Nash equilibrium? The Nash equilibrium, therefore, so look for the column where you have confess, confess. You have confess right here. You also have confess right here. So this box right here, this one is the Nash equilibrium. This box is the Nash equilibrium. Okay. So remember the strategy. First of all, we go horizontally like this. We try this one, this one, this one, this one. That's for Mr. Blue. Then what do we do next? Let me change the color. Then what we do next is we go vertically. This. So we go this, 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 this. All right. All right. So so the dominant strategy for both of them is to confess and confess, while their Nash equilibrium is this box that I showed you, this one here, this first box here. Okay. So let's see, I think we have other examples there. Let me read what we have here. It says, question, what is the dominant strategy of each player? Also find the Nash equilibrium. First, we'll examine Mr. Blue's response as a result of Mr. Green's decision, and this can be gotten by playing the game horizontally. Okay. If Mr. Green confesses and gets 8 years, Mr. Blue will confess and get 8 years. If Mr. Green confesses and goes scot-free, Mr. Blue will remain silent and get 20 years. On the other hand, in the second column, if Mr. Green remains silent and gets 20 years, Mr. Blue will confess and goes free. And if Mr. Green remains silent and Mr. Blue remains silent, they will both get 1 year each. The dominant strategy for Mr. Blue will be to confess. Okay, the same thing for Mr. Green. Second, we would examine Mr. Green's response as a result of Mr. Blue's decision, and this can be gotten by playing the game vertically. If Mr. Blue confesses and gets 8 years, Mr. Green will confess and get 8 years. If Mr. Blue confesses and goes scot-free, Mr. Green will remain silent and get 20 years. On the other hand, in the second row, if Mr. Blue remains silent and gets 20 years, Mr. Green will confess and go free. And if Mr. Blue remains silent and Mr. Green remains silent, they will both get 1 year each. The dominant strategy for Mr. Green will be to confess. You can see here, the Nash equilibrium will be to confess. Okay? I'll show you in the table. In the language of game theory, a strategy is called a dominant strategy if it is the best strategy for a player to follow, regardless of the strategies pursued by other players. Now, let's see here. Two petrol stations, R and Q, are located on the high street leading out of the town. The price one charges is highly dependent upon the price charged by the other, and vice versa, as shown in the payoff matrix in table 10.2. What is the dominant strategy of each player, and also find the Nash equilibrium. So uh, petrol station, fuel station Q, yeah, and R. Would they charge $100 each? Would they charge $80? Let's see what they're going to do. Let's play this game together, even without looking at the solution. Okay, so if, let's see, what will R do as a result of Q's decision? So if Q charges I price of 100, if Q charges I price of 100, R will also charges I price of 100. Yes? If Q charges I price and sells at 0, yes, sells at 0, R charges at low price and sells at $160 or makes $160. Let me look at that question again. Yes. So, and makes 160, let's say makes $160. All right. If it charges at low price, it makes $160. If it charges at high price, so compare $100 or $160. What will R charge? Let me clear this. So the assertion is if Q charges high price, how Q and R charges high price or low price, how much would they make? So if Q charges high price, R charges high price, and they both make $100. If Q charges high price, yes, and R charges low price, Q will make 0 and R will make 160. Compare this column and this. Okay, what would you have? Of course, you charge at low price and make 160. So let's go to the other side. That's if Q charges at low price, it makes 160. R charges at high price. R charges at high price, yes, and makes 0. So if Q charges at low price and makes $80, R will charge at low price and also make $80. So compare this and this. What is it going to get? It's going to charge at low price and get $80. Remember, in the first in this first vertical versus horizontal that we did, is going to charge at low price and make 160. The same here is going to charge at low price and make $80. And so the dominant strategy for filling station or fuel station R will be to charge at low price. Let me say LP. So let's do the same for Q. And this time we are moving vertically. You remember that we have to move like this, like this, even without solving that much. High price, $100. Low price, $160. Yes? Okay. Okay, so I'm comparing. Let me change the color quickly. So just comparing the two, compare these two parts. So Q charges at high price. Where's the pen? So high price makes $100. Low price make $160. Of course, Q is going to charge at low price in the first row here. Get $160. Let's go for the other one. High price 0, low price 80. Compare these two. It's going to charge at low price right here and make 80. So also for Q, yes, it's best to charge at low price, low price, low price. Okay. So what is the Nash equilibrium? This is the Nash equilibrium here. Let me clear all. Low price, low price. So this, and this. Low price, low price. All right. So where's low price, low price? Right here. This is the Nash equilibrium. Okay. Okay. So first of all, you go, remember, you go horizontally this way. Then for Q, you go vertically. So first you consider columns, then you take a look at rows. Okay, so let's move on. Yes. So let's see what you do, right? If R and Q agree to charge a high price, they can both make supernormal profit at $100 each. R sees more money can be made and decides to uncut R, and R gets most of them and gets nothing. Q is very unhappy, so Q cuts price too. Both firms found out that they only get $80 each. Not very satisfactory conclusion. Perhaps they should both collude and get $100 each. $100 each. So, we said that in an oligopolistic market, collusion is possible. And so, even though they make $80, they sell at low price and make it $80, they can come together. These two firms can come together and control the market share and both make $100. That's if they want to. Okay. As you can see, a dilemma here. It seems to be what colluding and what breaking the collusion. Once the collusion is broken, it is what colluding again. This is the prisoner's dilemma in action, and explain why cartels might form and why they might be broken. So this is example 3. You'll solve that on your own. So find the dominant strategy of each player, for example, for Nigeria, for Turkey, and also find the Nash equilibrium. Okay, remember that although, take a look at this place right here. In this, the suitable thing would have been for them to make $100 each. That is the ideal thing. But you should always remember a firm would always take a decision based on his or her own self-interest. So I'm just using his or her. So a firm would take a decision based on their own, or firms would take decision based on their own self-interest. So it's not about what is ideal. It is about what will benefit them, or what will be the best strategy that they can take, or what will be the best decision that they can take based on what other firms are doing within that market. All right. So it doesn't have to be $100 for them having $100. One thing you must take a look at is they are going to take a decision based on what is going to benefit them, based on their own self-interest. Okay, so I said you should solve example 3. That's on your own. So let's take a look at some pricing strategies used in oligopoly. So we have price wars. This occurs when price cutting leads to retaliation and other firms cut prices, meaning the original firm again want to cut prices to increase their sales. Predatory pricing. This involves cutting prices below the average cost of production. It is a short-term measure. Once other firms are forced out of the market, the firm raises prices again. We also have limit pricing. This involves cutting the price to the point where new possible entrants cannot compete. The firms already in the industry can sustain the position on a long-term basis because it has lower cost of production. You also have price leadership. When dominant firms change prices, others will follow. Okay, and we also have non-price competition. This is when firms take action to compete without changing the price of their product. This might be through advertising, loyalty cards, free gift, or similar strategies. Let's take a look at some review questions. What is game theory? What is cooperative and non-cooperative game theory? So cooperative is benefit of all. Non-cooperative is based on self-interest. What are the elements of a game? Players, strategies, and payoffs. What is Nash equilibrium? Nash equilibrium simply means best response. What are these different pricing strategies used in oligopoly? And these are for your further readings, all right? So remember, to solve the game, you will go to get for Turkey, you go horizontally. To get for Nigeria, you go vertically. And remember that I mentioned, I'm going to mention again, your Nash equilibrium might not necessarily be the ideal. Why? Because each firm will take a decision based on their own self-interest. Each firm will take a decision based on their own self-interest. Okay? Okay, until I see you again in our next class, do have a wonderful day. Keep studying, never give up, keep your heads up, and things are going to be fine. And I believe also you're going to excel in your studies and excel in life. See you. Bye, and God bless.